Hi guys, welcome to our channel, Diabetes Doc _KE. My name is Dr. Hilda Nabiswa and I have a huge passion for diabetes management. And today I have a wonderful guest. Some of you already know him. He is someone who has been living with type 1 diabetes and he is a champion. And he has come to share a very, very important part of his last few weeks. Something exciting happened to him.
Haibambi hii sasa, hii haibambi vizuri. Ile sasa inabamba jo ni hii.
Unachukua, unafanya hivyo, alafu maisha inaendelea.
I'd like to invite Mr. Newton to the channel. Karibu sana Newton.
Asante sana daktari.
Karibu. First of all, introduce yourself. Unajua not everyone knows you.
For sure.
Yeah.
Ambao wananijui very few, but I'm glad to be here. My name is Newton Ngugi from the Young Unsweet podcast, and I'm glad to be here with the doc. We have done quite a couple of episodes, and I'm glad to share exciting news that I have had for the past few weeks with the daktari here, and I welcome your question, comments, and feedback on the same.
Thank you. So first of all, those who don't know Young Unsweet, it is a podcast that comprises of people living with type 1 diabetes, and they tell us how they manage their sugars, how they live healthy, positive lives with the condition. So Newton,
Yes.
I hear through the grapevine
Yes.
that you actually had a CGM.
For sure.
So please tell us, what is a CGM?
Yes.
How did you learn about it? And how did you get it, first of all, before we even go to your experience?
For sure. Yeah, so a CGM is a continuous glucose monitoring device that is wearable on your arm or on your body, that tracks or even checks your blood sugars subconsciously. That is, you wear it and then it checks your blood sugars over time. So it is an upgraded or an updated version as compared to the glucometers that we normally use. This one is on your body 24/7, and it gives you a graphical representation of how your sugars are behaving, and also gives you a timely feedback loop in terms of the alarms and everything. So it's very, very useful, and it is very, very very well used in the global north, Europe and Americas, but in Africa and the low and middle income countries, it's very rarely used, and that is part of why it is not so much even in the literature in this space. Yes.
So basically what he's saying is that he monitored his sugars for a whole, was it 2 weeks?
Yes.
For a whole 2 weeks, he monitored his sugars without pricking himself, without having to do anything. Like literally, he would just do this, and the sugar records itself on his phone. And after that, it gave him a graph of all the sugars that he had. So you can imagine how good that is. So Newton, tell me, how was your experience with it?
So I will be honest, I was excited, and I was also very jittery about it, because now I had the truth with me. You know, with the other glucometer, you only know when to check, for example. So you check, for example, in the morning for the fasting, and after you take something. But this one is giving you the truth, the way it is. And we know very well that at times, even a person living with diabetes, at times you want to, there are some parts about the condition you do not want to have. So I wanted to have a sort of illustration or sort of graphical representation of how my sugars are faring, and also to be able to see if the medication is working for me in that regard. Because many a times we take this medication, and we are not sure if the medication is even working for us. But when we check our glucose intermittently, for example fasting, you can think that it is working for you. But now the CGM was able to give me a continuous graphical representation. Wherever I had the lows and the highs, it gave me alarms. So this device is connected to your smartphone or a transmitter. So when you have it on your smartphone or your transmitter, it is giving you a daily pattern to be able to show you how the sugars are faring for the past couple of hours. So it gives you reading after every 5 minutes.
Wow.
Every 5 minutes. So in a day, it can give you more than 250 readings.
Amazing.
Yes.
And yet, when you do the pricking, the most you go is probably 6 times.
For sure. The most you go is 6 times, bearing in mind the cost and everything, and even bearing in mind that the CGM is convenient. You know, with the glucometers, it normally looks like it's a minor operation. You cannot conduct it when you are traveling. You cannot conduct it in an open space. The criticism, the stigmatization, and everything, and also the cost of being able to do it in a way that it can also be able to give you education. So the other part of the CGM that I also found very, very interesting is the fact that it is storing data. So what has been happening for people living with the condition is that once you take the reading in the morning, do people even record the readings?
Sometimes they don't.
They record them on their heads, and then they are done. So when they go even to a facility, and even they say that, I've been testing myself, the doctor will ask, where are the readings? They don't have.
Newton, you can say that again. I am a recipient of that. I asked my patients, how are your sugars? Daktari, zinakuanga between azipiti 7.
Yeah.
But you don't really know what's happening behind it. So you're right,
Yes. And the interesting part was also now, you going even to that physician or even the daktari, there is now that communication. Like, this is how your sugars were behaving this time.
Yes.
So you can infer past events.
Yes.
And you're not using the information to be able to judge how you're managing the condition. You're using the information to give you an informed choice on the medication regimen that you'll be using, on the education, on even any other aspect regarding even your occupation.
Yes.
So at normally times, I would check, for example, and I will show even with my graph, is that I was experiencing like hypos in the afternoon.
Yes.
Afternoon and at the crack of dawn, 4 and 5. So that sort of helped my clinician to be able to, my physician to be able to infer and see that the medication that we are using, it is having an effect at this time. So that sort of information being laid out there is very, very critical.
Yes.
And the worry is that, which is very, very sad, normally people are taking their RBS or their FBS once they go to the clinic because of so many other logistics. But now with this one, the more data that is available, the more useful even that is even to the clinician or even the physician.
Yes.
Bearing in mind also, we can be able even to track the complications. So supposing you have a condition, are developing maybe an eye problem or something, the doctor can be able to see that if your sugars misbehave, they will deteriorate this condition that you are having, a complication and all that. But also what I realized that is very, very key as a person living with type 1 diabetes is hypo-unawareness. At some point, because having lived with the condition for the past 10 years, I have hypo-unawareness, whereby I do not tell if my sugar is going low or I'm just being passed by anything that is, I don't know, right? So I could tell because the alarms, it has an alarm system. If your sugar goes below 3.5 or below 4, it will alert you, even when you are asleep.
So you wake up, because
you
hear this
alarm, very nagging, which is very great.
Which is good,
Yes, and then it alerts you and then it tells you that now you need to do something. So it tells you there is a low blood sugar, and it even offers you ways in which you can be able to correct that. So take a fruit, take this or that. So you can be able to do that. The other bit with the CGM is that you can share this data with a person, with your spouse, with your loved one, so they can be able to have the visibility. So even if you are sleeping with someone, or maybe even sleeping in, for example, a setup of a home, they can be able to tell that your sugars are going low, even without you noticing. So it is that sort of intervention that is at least saving lives and everything. And
that's amazing. You've mentioned very many advantages of the CGM.
Yes.
And I hope you don't mind if we use your data. Can we use your data?
For sure, no worries.
So we are going to have a recording of your sugars, how it went for you.
Yes.
And I know that at some point there's something in the CGM that is written time in range.
Yes.
And for our listeners who might not be aware, time in range is the time that you spend with either type 1 diabetes or type 2 diabetes, where your sugars are under control. So if your target is between, let's say, 4.4 to 10, then it is set like that. And then now the CGM tells you what percentage of time are you spending with this target time. And our target is usually that you need to be 70% and above time in range. And you need to less than 4% be in hypo. That's usually our target. So I know that for you, it was also able to show you, and you were actually concerned because your hypo level was quite high, right?
For sure.
And this you did not know when you were doing the usual monitoring.
Yes, I could not tell, because even that goes back to even the recording phase.
Exactly.
So normally, like when you do the readings and everything, the match recording you can do is 3 or 4 days before you go to the clinic. So you can be able to see that even the doctor does not have so much informed about that. So the time in range is something that I learned with the CGM. Initially, I would would see people posting on
Social
Facebook,
media,
Twitter,
and
what is
time
this?
is?
So my curiosity could not have been satisfied by that. But at the end of the day, I was now able to compare the HbA1c and the time in range. So the time in range is the number of times or the percentage of time in a day, for example 24-hour system, that your sugars are in range. That means that you have to reduce, it will reduce the complications, the short-term and the long-term complications. So that really helped me to be able to understand my sugars. So for the first time, I was able to have a data that can really even inform me as a person living the condition. So at the end of the day, I could tell that this is how my condition is, which is different from other people's condition.
Yes.
And I believe that is the nirvana of diabetes management.
Yeah.
If we can have the CGM, I know there are limitations, Daktari, because at the end of the day and everything, but if we can be able to ensure that we leave no one behind, the global north and the global south in one direction, it can really save a lot.
So the reason why you are bringing this up is because unfortunately our people in the lower middle income countries don't have access to CGM, and as you can see, all the benefits we've talked about, people are aware to. They know how long their sugar is in range, they know about hypo, the alarm is there, they have people who can actually monitor their sugars much deeper, better than the pricking, and that includes the caregivers and even the doctors, and make informed decisions regarding the sugars at that point.
For sure.
So we are missing out a lot in the lower middle income countries.
Yes.
And the number one reason is because of the cost of CGMs.
Yes.
Can you, since you not only are in type 1 diabetes, but you also somehow you're in a number of organizations that advocate for diabetes care in Kenya, right?
For sure.
So what do you think are the challenges that we are facing in Kenya that are making CGM not become a mainstream used product?
For sure. So it being a lifesaver, it's something that is really much needed.
Yeah.
So what I would like to maybe suggest what I've observed is that the CGM in countries, for example, the middle income and the first world countries, they are covered even with insurance.
Yeah.
So for example, in the UK, we interacted sometime last year with Professor PSK, and the CGM is given to type 1 living with the condition for that time, right? And the people who have got hypos, frequent hypos and everything. So the first thing is that now the accessibility and the affordability is hindered by the fact that we do not have even the knowledge, leave alone even the devices.
Yes.
The knowledge is not there. There's that knowledge gap. So who are these people who will even prescribe that CGM?
Yes.
That is one. Secondly, the costs. The cost is alluded by the fact that the manufacturer's presence in these countries is also not so much. The penetration is not so much as compared to the other countries. But that also is alluded to the fact that there is no high quality data to inform intervention of that.
So
for example,
research.
we need more research. So for example, you can see in the UK, these people reproduce research day in, day out, and they have the data. So you as an investor or a manufacturer, you will see that these people know what they are doing, they know their means, they know the numbers, and we can be able to even quantify that in terms of that. So that is why even the interest is not so far in that area. The third bit is also the perception of this gadget, even when you look at Africa, for example, setting. So we have other competing needs that even the CGM, like for example, if you bring to a person who does not even have a 3 square meal day, how will the CGM help? So you see, we have so many other out of diabetes needs that we first need to ensure that they are satisfied than first going to the CGM, because technology at the end of the day will not make diabetes disappear. But if we can be able to include it as, because it is a socioeconomic determinant in that regard. So all these other conditions are well taken care of, and then now we bring in the CGM, it will really save lives. So what the intention for me is to be able to advocate for these gadgets to be available in our country, because if they do not benefit us, we are the taxpayers of this country, we are the one who fund these insurance companies, the NHIF and everything, and if they do not serve us, there is no need for me to tell me that there is a dialysis machine.
So as we finish,
Yes.
How much was it? Because that is the one thing everyone is like, yes, we know it's good. You've told us so many things about it, but
for sure.
How much is it?
So the whole cost was around, for the gadget itself is around 15,000. And you know, now we are in tough economic times, so I might be speaking a lower value. You see, now there is the dollars and everything, so everything, because it's out of the country, it's at least the cost for that was 15,000, without of course the consultation, which was part.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is 15,000 every 2 weeks, and that means that it costs around 30,000 just for the CGM alone per month. And you can see this is the main problem. So thank you so much, Newton, for sharing your experience with us. We've learned a lot.
Yes.
And in summary, what we have learned is that this is a very important tool in diabetes management, that other places are already doing this, but we are being left behind. We are lagging behind. But this is because we don't have enough research in the field. The cost is quite prohibitive. And our insurance companies are still looking at treatment of complications rather than looking at how to control diabetes better to avoid complications. Because believe it or not, people are getting dialysis twice a week, and each session costs how much? Around 15,000.
15,000, yeah.
So at the end of the day, in a month, they have spent 15 times 8, which is so much more than what they would have spent on the CGM.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, we have to look and see the health economics behind it. But I believe strongly that we can do something. We can do something about CGMs, even if it means just choosing the high risk people and letting them get the CGMs. I believe this is something insurance companies can think about strongly. So thank you so much, Newton, for your experience, and we are going to be happy to receive any messages and any questions. If you have any questions about his experience, or if you would like to actually also have a CGM, let us know in the DMs below, and we'll see how to link you up with the right people who can give you the machines. So thank you, and have a lovely day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.